Hey guys, so I already uploaded a video earlier today, but I'm the Lord of Rambling, so it kind of went on for like an hour. So I kind of just want to upload this video as a bit of a summary of the video that I uploaded earlier. Basically, that video was my personal story, kind of from the start, an experience of figuring out that I have Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, or CHS. Basically, just some of the things you want to look out for. Some of the symptoms are just, if you're smoking really heavily. I mean, one of the things that's like that's in common between just about all of these victims, including myself, is that you have frequent use of marijuana, usually on a daily basis. Like for myself, I had it on daily. There was very rarely a day where I didn't smoke, and if there was a day, then I would just feel, fucked up. I would just not feel right. So if you are experiencing like extreme nausea out of nowhere, basically these things come on in episodes. The way it started for me is I thought it was food poisoning. I thought it was like the stomach flu, and it was just so bad that I had to go to the ER, and it took me several ER visits before they finally told me that it was what this is, CHS, Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. And I had actually been, told one of the previous times that I went to the ER after they examined multiple labs and tests, excuse me, that they ran on me, including, like a CAT scan of my abdomen. And after finding no or very few abnormalities, the abnormalities that were present were most likely due to dehydration. But basically, at a previous visit to the ER, they did try to tell me that I had a type of illness that was related to CVS, which is cyclic vomiting syndrome, but it is completely reliant on your usage of marijuana. And I even tried to argue with the doctor, because I was like, I don't think that's it. I think it's something with my stomach. I think I have something wrong that you guys aren't figuring out, and I really truly believe that. But I was definitely wrong. In the most recent visits to the ER, finally they sat me down and they were able to tell me kind of in a way that I was able to actually comprehend and then do my own research and not be so skeptical about it, because the first time I just continued to smoke. And this heavily was reliant, or I was using the vape pens very often when the episodes do come on. Each time I've only had 2 episodes. However, like, the first episode lasted about 2 months long, though. This episode has been a couple weeks long. Long-term symptoms were waking up in the morning feeling extremely nauseous. I would hit the bowl and jump in the shower and feel a little bit better after that, and kind of like would start to kind of feel better throughout the day. Although I would also smoke to alleviate the nausea that I felt throughout the day. And it was kind of just this vicious cycle of waking up every morning feeling really terrible, getting in the shower, and then going throughout my day, slowly feeling better. The last time I went to the ER, each time I went to the ER, I was having a panic attack. And this is a very common symptom, especially if you're already an anxious person. Panic attacks are probably going to happen, but you need to learn how to deal with the anxiety. You need to try to find some coping mechanisms for keeping your breathing, normal. Try not to let your mind wander. Don't go on Google looking up your symptoms, because you're going to convince yourself that you have all kinds of things like cancer and gastroparesis and any of that stuff, because that's what I did, and it makes me feel scared, like kind of, legitimate fear for my life kind of situation, where I'm afraid that if I go to sleep that I won't wake up, that I'll die in my sleep because something is severely wrong with me that people aren't that people aren't finding out. I had a legitimate fear, and a lot of it is attributed to reading things on the internet. So you really need to try to stay away from that. You also need to you have to abstain from weed. I know that sounds crazy, and I mean, coming from me of all people, because I was skeptical for years, you gotta stop. I mean, that's the only way at this moment until further research is done and they find medications other than, you know, the topical capsaicin cream that just kind of makes your stomach feel warm and emulate the feeling of what is it? The feeling of relief that you get from a hot shower. I mean, if you're taking hot showers very often for your nausea, then you might want to look into CHS. You might want to mention to your doctors that you smoke marijuana, because, I mean, if you don't admit it, then you're only going to prolong your diagnosis unless they see it themselves in your urinalysis, and you don't want to wait for that. You want to catch this as early as you can. I mean, it's very difficult to deal with, but it does get better. This is my third day without weed. This is probably the longest I've gone sober in maybe 7 years, 8 years. And I know that's kind of sad, but I mean, that's just how I was, you know? I mean, I would smoke all day, every day, from when I woke up to when I went to bed, and it didn't matter what kind of obligations that I had in the day, I would still smoke, because that's just how I preferred my mindset to be, or where I preferred to be mentally. It relaxed me. It did all these things for me, all these therapeutic effects, you know, that I felt like I really needed. But in the end, it was actually the thing that was hurting me. And if you're experiencing symptoms similar, then it could be happening to you, and you really need to have an open mind to the possibility that that could be true. Some of the things that I've been experiencing, I mean, like today, having gone just a few days without weed, is my nausea has definitely gone down significantly from my episodes of like just severe vomiting when I really needed to go to the ER. I still do experience nausea, and there are a couple points in the day where it does get kind of bad and a little difficult to manage, but it is still manageable. I have been able to sip on water and try to sip on Gatorade, and then I'm supplementing that with, you know, like small sips of an Ensure drink throughout the day, which is basically just like a nutrient-rich kind of protein shake type of thing. Has calories and protein, a bunch of things that you need for people who have trouble keeping things down. You want to keep everything in your body, you know, at proper levels. So don't shower too much, because that can actually be counterproductive. That can hurt you in the long run. That can add to that can contribute to your dehydration. And really, the danger in CHS is basically the likelihood that you will become dehydrated from your vomiting. When you go to the ER for CHS, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, they're going to stick you with an IV to get some fluids pumping back in your system because you're dehydrated. And they'll probably give you something for, if your anxiety is real bad, like me, they would usually, you know, pump me with IV or hydration fluids and give me Ativan. Nausea medications they would try to give me, but they don't really work with this. And that's another way that you can kind of gauge your diagnosis. And please don't self-diagnose. And I am not a medical professional, by the way. This is just me talking about my personal experience. But basically, I just lost my train of thought. And that's kind of part of my symptoms of quitting weed too. Is I feel so scatterbrained. I feel like I need to smoke a bowl to make myself okay again. I feel like I'm kind of broken, but I know that I'm not, and I know that I'm just withdrawing. And if you're feeling this way as well, if your anxiety is really high after quitting weed, if you have like really bad anxiety or panic attacks, or you're feeling depressed. I definitely am experiencing depression, but I know that it is not the end of the end of the world. It's all I can do to tell myself that I am experiencing depression and that it will get better. And I know that's true, and I see it, I've seen it in other people who have been diagnosed with CHS, and you can do it too. If you're feeling depressed, I promise it'll get better. Like, it really will. You have to really believe that it will get better, and it will. You have to dedicate yourself, and it takes a lot of strength, and it'll probably take a lot out of you, and you'll feel exhausted, and there are definitely times where you'll feel hopeless about the future. You'll feel just sad or down and not know why. It'll get better, I promise. You're not alone. I definitely experience these things. I definitely have these thoughts day to day, and I do worry. I am the type that goes on Google and looks up all my symptoms and tries to self-diagnose myself with all kinds of crazy stuff because it just sounds like, oh, that's me. But it's simply CHS. So if you're diagnosed with CHS, if your doctor tells you you have CHS, if you're experiencing symptoms of CHS, do your research, go to a doctor, let them examine you. Don't argue with results. I mean, I know sometimes doctors don't completely get it, but I think they're on the right road. They're on the right path as far as this sickness goes, or illness goes. But yeah, so if you're dealing with CHS, just know it'll get better. You have to pull through. Abstain from weed, and you can make it. Just breathe, hydrate, and keep your mental try to stay, mentally optimistic about the future. If you need to, you can rewatch my video, and I'm going to be trying to upload videos daily to so that you can watch my journey and see where, personally for me, my symptoms start to dissipate and become normal life again. Right now, it is probably the hardest phase that I've dealt with. This is at its worst, and quitting weed, the withdrawals are usually at their worst between kind of like in the 2 to 3 day range after abstaining. So you just got to pull through. I know how bad you're going to want to go grab that pipe and pack it up and hit it, because that was what always cured your nausea, because that's how I feel. I mean, even now, I want nothing more than to load a bowl and just smoke up. But I know I can't. I know it's going to hurt me if I do in the long run, and I can't afford that. It's just not worth it. So if you're suffering from CHS, you got to stop. Just quit. Keep yourself hydrated. Try to keep a balanced diet. If you can't keep food down, use Ensure until you can eat solid foods, and you'll be okay, I promise. And if you want to talk to me, you can definitely message me. You can comment below if you want to talk with other people who are also experiencing these things. I really genuinely hope that you guys will discuss this in the comment section. I really just hope that we can all come together as a community, because this is just so, this is just it's a struggle. It's real tough, and it'll probably be the hardest thing that you'll ever have to do in your entire life, and I was in the military at one point. I've even gone through survival school, and this doesn't even compare. Honestly, as much as I love to smoke weed, it's just not worth feeling this bad. I have never felt so bad in my entire life, and it's very difficult, but like I said, I'm going to pull through, and you're going to pull through as long as you keep a healthy mindset, stay optimistic. You'll probably stray from that, and if you get distracted, just come back. I mean, you have to try to work on your awareness, you'll be okay. I promise. You'll make it through. Stay optimistic, and you'll be fine. Much love.